right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the business webinar program presented by Bank of America. Today's session with the Tory Burch Foundation is about eyes on your exit. And we are going to learn the importance of planning your exit strategy, even in the earliest stages of your business, the kinds of exits that are possible, and how to maximize your company's exit valuation. I'm very excited. I want to know the answers to these questions too. I'm Molly Heffernan, Vice President of Marketing for the Tory Burch Foundation, and I am just beyond thrilled to be here with Carrie Kerpen, the founder and CEO of the Whisper Group, an exit readiness advisory firm for women entrepreneurs. Prior to the Whisper Group, Carrie had launched, scaled, and sold her digital agency, Likable Media. So to say that we are in good hands is an understatement because Carrie has been through this and knows what it is like and how to plan for this. Carrie, after Carrie's presentation, we are going to have plenty of time for Q&A. So use the chat to get to know each other. That is where we do all the great community building, and use the Q&A box to submit your questions. We're going to do our best to get to as many as we can today. So take notes, but this session will be recorded and sent to your inboxes for a replay. And I guess with that, Carrie, I want to open it up to you. You're the expert today.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm just getting ready as I share my screen. Give me just a moment. I am thrilled to be here today with all of you. It is one of my missions in life to educate women on the power of understanding an exit strategy. And so today I'm going to ask you the question that Taylor Swift often asks. Are you ready for it? So we're going to talk all about things that you should be thinking about before exit, a little bit of understanding of what an exit can be like, and then I am here to answer any and all of your questions. But before we do that, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about me, because it's important to understand that I truly once sat in your exact shoes. Okay. So the year is 2007. You see this very cute picture of a wedding on a baseball field. In 2007, when I was getting married, my husband, soon to be, wanted everyone he's ever known to come to his wedding. And I don't mean you guys like people from high school. I mean legitimately, if he were on this webinar, he'd be like, hello, I'd like you all to watch me get married. Now, I knew there was nowhere in New York City that we could hold such a wedding. And I knew there was no way we could afford such a wedding. And yet, like all women who seek to solve a problem, I knew there had to be a way that I could meet his needs. And so, coming from a marketing background, I pitched the minor league affiliate of the New York Mets, the Brooklyn Cyclones. I said, here's what I want to do. How much does it cost to sponsor the night? They said it'll be $6,000. I said, okay, great. We will buy out your inventory in between each inning of the game. So instead of like Pepsi tossing t-shirts into the audience, 1-800-Flowers will toss bridal bouquets. It'll be cute. It'll be campy. It'll be fun. We'll have a baseball game. We'll invite brides. We can make it like a whole theme. And we'll just get married on the field after the game, have a party in the back, and have the entire thing sponsored. And by the way, oh, we'll also raise money for charity. Okay, this came out of my mouth, solving a problem. And then I was like, oh no, I have to execute this. But we did. $100,000 in sponsorships later, we were able, and $20,000 for the National MS Society, we were able to have the wedding of my husband's and my dreams. Now, this also attracted national and international press. I came from a brand and a media sales background. I was not an entrepreneur. And yet, all of the sponsors who took part in this wedding, 1-800-Flowers, David's Bridal, all of these companies said to us, like, you guys, this was amazing. It was the best, most cost-effective PR event we've ever done. Do it again. We couldn't get married again. We weren't going to have a sponsored baby. We didn't know exactly what to do. So we started an agency based on word of mouth marketing and the power of word of mouth marketing. And that was right at the moment when Facebook opened beyond the college market. Remember, it used to be like, you used to have a .edu address. Some of you might be too young for that. But It used to be just exclusively for college kids, and then it opened up. Suddenly, we realized that social media was going to be the fastest form of word of mouth. And that is how, with very little agency experience, actually none, and sort of just a dream and like a figure it out mentality, we launched Likable, one of the first social media agencies in history. Now, we scaled that until about 2015 when Dave left the business. He was a serial entrepreneur, wanted to do something new. And this was something that we had carried through with our heart and soul, right? Like we learned how to grow this business because nobody was doing social media. We scaled really quickly. But in 2007, when you start and nobody's doing social media, it's really easy to grow. In 2015, everybody was doing social media. And by the way, when he left, everyone around me was loud, extroverted, and male in my space. They were all social media influencers. Picture like the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world. This is who I was surrounded by. And by the way, because we had scaled so quickly, we weren't yet profitable. So there I was. My husband's launching a new business. He's raising money for it. We don't have a lot of money. Our entire net worth is tied up in this business. What is a girl to do? And so I decided that I was going to slowly, methodically, carefully build an agency that could be sold. So from 2015 to 2021, I doubled the size of the business by leaning into a network of fantastic women. I started a podcast called All the Social Ladies. I started building my own network. I started just doing everything I could to get everything in place. I doubled the business, and in 2021, I sold to a technology firm. This was a huge accomplishment. And yet, I recognized in that process that there were so few women around me who had this story to tell. And that in the process, I was almost entirely surrounded by men. And so I saw a real hole in that marketplace. I started looking into it and I realized that today, women-owned businesses are extracting 0.8% of total exit value. I left this here for you as a QR code just in case you want to take a picture, or you can go to closetheexitgap.com. We talk about the disparities between male and female-owned exits. Now, before you go into a state of despair on this, there are a lot of reasons that tie into this that I think can be solved. So the first, we already know about the fundraising gap. We know that women are taking on less capital. They have access to less capital. They have captured 2%. You know, we know all of this. That story has been told time and time again. So obviously businesses that raise more, hopefully exit for more. Okay, great. But for me, when I look at women-owned businesses, I don't think we even realize that exit is possible. We are building many, many iterations or versions of lifestyle businesses. We're building interior design firms, we're building retail, we're building agencies, we're building all kinds of things that aren't necessarily seen as these big, sexy unicorns that you see in the news. And so we think, we can't do that. And in reality, we can. Every single business, even a solopreneur business, can be a sellable business if you choose to. And today, I am going to tell you how. That's how the Whisper Group came to be. I'll tell you a little bit about the Whisper Group here. This is what's really cool about my next gig. I started with media. I invested in content after I left the company that I was acquired by. I started posting content and education every day. I wanted to invest in storytelling to help tell the stories of these exited female founders and how they did it. Launched a podcast called The Exit Whisperer. I then launched an advisory service practice to help women get across the finish line, whether they're facilitating their own exit service that we will support from other women. And then finally, there's the collective, which is our collection of exited female founders. My goal is that every single person on this webinar gets into that collective one day, which is a collective of women who have done what so few of us manage to actually do, which is build a healthy business to exit on our own terms. Now let's talk about how. There is more than just one way to exit your company. So this is another QR code. This leads you to this will come out in your email too, but the different types of exits, I'm just going to review them with you quickly right now. There is a financial exit. So that's like a private equity buyer or somebody who's just valuing you on your finances. They're going to look at your EBITDA, generally, unless you're a tech firm, sometimes revenue, and they're going to do a multiple of that. We'll go into that in a few moments. There's a strategic buyer, somebody who really needs you. Let's say you have a client that they really want. They're going to pay through the nose for that because they see the synergies of what the broader two companies can be. Other exits that are completely on the table are selling to a co-founder, selling to your employees, doing an ESOP. There are lots and lots and lots of different ways. Oh, passing it down in your family. There are lots of different ways that you can exit. And right here will lead you to a QR code that will take you to the specifics of those exits. Now, there's one thing that I found in my research that I also wanted to share with you. And it's something that helps motivate what I do today. 75% of business owners do experience profound regret 1 year after the sale. And why is that? Even ones who have like monetarily healthy exits. A lot of times we regret something from a money perspective. We didn't think about how much we'd need in order to retire, or we didn't leave ourselves enough runway. But a lot of the times we're not personally prepared. The business is our identity. The business, who we are in the community, who we come across as in the world. And people often feel a deep sense of loss and transition. So my goal for you today in teaching you what to do is how to build a happy, healthy exit. Now, a happy, healthy exit will be hopefully monetarily beneficial, but it is not the only piece of an exit. An exit that is happy and healthy meets our financial readiness and our personal readiness. It's really, really important, and it leaves the business in a good position too. So we're going to talk through how to do that. Exit planning is more about our business than our business readiness. It's personal, it's financial, it's emotional, it's all of it. So now I'm going to show you the Whisper way. So when I called the Whisper Group, it is because Whisper stands for the 7 tenets needed to build your business to be happy and healthy and valuable at exit. Here we go. So W, why? Questions that I ask for why. Why is my number my number? If I asked you what you wanted to exit for, you might have an idea. You might pick a number out of 3 thin air. Just, I don't know. I want to exit for $100 million. Okay, why? What is the actual rationale for why you want to go when you want to go? What do you need for your money? What do you need for your timing? And why do you want to exit? If you cannot answer why you want to exit in the time you want to exit for the amount you want to exit, you are less ready. Does that affect your valuation? Maybe, maybe not. Does it affect every fiber of your being and how this exit will play out? Absolutely. And so the first steps I want you to think about is, what's the number? Is that number feasible? And we'll talk about that in a minute. Why do you want to sell this now? And what would you want to do next? Unless you are completely and totally retiring, it is important to think about what you would want to do next. And it doesn't mean you have to know exactly what's next. I don't think I knew the Whisper Group existed when I sold Likable, but what I knew for sure was that I didn't want to be a social media agency anymore. This was something Dave and I had started, and it was our thing. And suddenly I'm running it on my own, and it's a lot of pressure and it's hard. And maybe I want to find something that really fuels me. So I'm going to sell for enough to allow me to have that time and space to have a career that is going to fuel me. So I wasn't yet at retirement age. I didn't feel I needed to. I didn't want to take Likable through until the end. I had a clear picture of why. This not only helps you, it helps you articulate to your acquirer what you want as well. The next piece we want to look at is your how. So first, I want to know that you understand the market. We're going to talk about multiples. Multiples change with time. They're determined by the market and they're not in our control. So let's talk about what a multiple is. I apologize if you know this already. Companies generally are valued on a multiple of EBITDA. 9 times out of 10, you're valued on your profit. And what is the multiple range that you can fall into for a business like yours? I'm going to give you some examples, some now. So if you're a SaaS company, this is valued on up to 1 million in revenue, might be valued on 3 to 5 times EBITDA. This is all from They Got Acquired, by the way, which is a great site. 2 to 10 million in revenue, you're actually going to show that you have traction. And here you're going to be valued on your recurring revenue, what you actually have. And this is a big win on the SaaS side. But that's tech. When you're looking at something like agencies, you're valued at somewhere between 2.5 and 5x EBITDA up to 1 million in EBITDA. So let's say you're a business that does 5 million in revenue and 1 million in EBITDA, and you're an agency, you're going to be worth between 2.5 million and 5 million based off of this. Okay. If you had more than that in EBITDA, 1 to 5, you would be worth 4 to 8. If you had more than 5 million, you'd be worth 8 to 11. Now, these are ones that are just reported from They Got Acquired. So they're one data point. They're not the only data point, but I wanted to give you an overview and an idea of where things fall now. And please do not hesitate to ask questions in the chat. When you're looking at media and content multiples, if you're looking at up to 1 million in revenue, you're looking at 2 to 3.5 times sellers' discretionary earnings. Often when you have a media and content company, they won't, there's a very slight difference between sellers' discretionary earnings and EBITDA. It's just a little bit of a smaller company, would be referred to as SDE. If you have more than 3 million in revenue, you'd be valued at 7 to 12 times EBITDA. Okay. And then if you have an advertising led business, you might see lower multiples here as a caveat. E-com multiples, and again, these are just examples, 3 to 6 times EBITDA. So for all of these, there's a range. And you can look up and know a general idea of your range. Okay, that'll give you a general idea when you look at these areas. Now, every business might have a range of value within the multiple range, but where we fall on that spectrum is entirely within our control. So I'll give you an example. When I sold Likable at the size that I was, the multiple range, which is determined by the market, it's determined by economic conditions, by what's hot right now. We don't have control of that. The range was between 4x to 8x. So let's say I had $2 million in EBITDA. I'd be worth between 8 million and 16. That difference is tremendous. It's tremendous. It's life-changing. So the idea is, how do we build a company that takes us on the top to the top and hopefully beyond if it's strategic? That's what we want to think about today. So you know the multiples. We start out, you understand your why, you gut check your why. If I want to sell for $100 million, but I'm Carrie and I have only $2 million in EBITDA and I'm an agency, it's either I have to build for many, many moons or I have to get real. So understanding your why and pairing it with your how helps you craft a plan that is rooted in reality. Which for me is very, very important. And any founder I advise, I want you to dream big, but I want you to also know where the real numbers fall so that we have an idea when we exceed those. Here's a bonus tip. I want you to really think about who your acquirer might be. In fact, I want you to have a running list. Just like you guys probably excel in sales and have a target list of clients that you want to sell to, you want to make sure that you have acquirers that you know would be a good fit for you and you network with them early and often. You don't need to say, I'm looking to be acquired. You just say, hey, I'd love to get to know you. I'd love to be on your radar. Would love to share, experience, share, that type of thing. Like really just start networking. Okay, next. How do you get to your why number? I just talked about that a little bit, really working backwards, saying if the multiples are this, what EBITDA do I need to get there and build a plan? Could I sell in 5 years? Could I sell in 7? Can I sell now? Where am I? And how do I craft a plan to get there? This is an example of the plan that I use for annual planning. It's a mix between Vern Harnish's Mastering the Rockefeller Habits and a little bit of EOS and a little bit of design because I like design and I'm a creative, which you can probably tell by all of my stuff in the background. This gives you really sort of an overview, and it starts with on the left side, you're really understanding like the why stuff, like what makes you different. But on the right side, it's really like, if I want to get to exit, where does my revenue and where does my profit need to be? And what steps do I need to do to get there? And this is what I work with founders to do as they're planning, all with an eye towards exit. Okay, and then finally, who do I trust? I will tell you that the first offer I got for Likable was an all cash upfront offer. It was a dream that felt too good to be true. They said, Carrie, we want you, we're going to acquire you. We're going to give you all cash up front, and we want you to acquire other women-owned agencies and build a collective. I mean, that's a dream. Think about who I am. Think about what motivates me. 100% fit, checked all the boxes. Greatest thing ever. And the valuation was tremendous. That deal fell apart in about 5 minutes. The rule of thumb for me, there I am, if it seems too good to be true, it is too good to be true. In my experience, almost every time. I have had things that exceed the norm, that are amazing, that are awesome. But if you have a gut that something is too good to be true, it often is. Now let's talk about the I, income. When we talk about income, we talk about staying in the black, right? You never want to be in the red. But my acronym when it comes to the right kind of income is RED. This is what an acquirer looks for, okay? And income and your profit, which we'll get to in a little bit, they're the most important pieces of the business. This is how you'll be valued. When we look at your income, we want it to be recurring. So a client doesn't do a one-time buy, a customer doesn't do a one-time buy and never come back. Something that's recurring. And the more recurring subscription, the more locked in they are, the better. So I want to make sure that a client is not a one-time only. Is it expected? Meaning, can you forecast with ease? So you're going to be acquired usually off of revenue when they're looking at your trailing 12 months. But if you can show that revenue is expected and you have a system for how you show that growth happens, you can potentially be evaluated off your future numbers. So how expected? How can you forecast with ease? And the last piece for RED, recurring, expected, and diversified. You want to make sure that all your eggs aren't in one basket. At the time that I sold Likable, I had a real challenge there with the diversification because I had a holding company that I had 3 clients under. So if one of those clients went away, it wasn't quite the same client concentration that somebody who had represented a mass part of their revenue did, but if one of those went away, would it affect the other 2? And I had to spend a lot of time in due diligence convincing them that that was not the case. It's really important to have revenue that is recurring, expected, and diversified. Hopefully you're asking questions in the chat. I will be there for you right after. As soon as we're right through this, I want to tell you one other thing, and this makes me very sad. People call me all the time, and you guys can call me all the time, for real. Like it is my life's work to help women exit on their own terms. So many women come to me when they're on the down, when they're dead inside, when they're done. It is much, much, much better for you, for an acquirer, and for the financials to sell in a growth year. So if you come to me and you say, Carrie, I am done, I'm done, I can get you across the finish line, but it will not be at a premium. If you say to me, Carrie, I'm done, get me out, the first thing I will do is try and regenerate you for a year. Try and regenerate you for a year. What could you do if you spent a year trying to improve the value of the business? And if you can get in that headspace to do that, to focus on how to answer some of these questions, how to build it to be a little bit more recurring, how to do any of that stuff, you will be in such better shape. I'll give you another likable example. In the agency business, things started to shift to project quite a bit, quite a bit. It went from retainers to project. And all of a sudden I saw my recurring revenue starting to decline and my project revenue starting to go up. Same revenue, but it's not worth the same thing when they're evaluating it. In other words, you're going to get the higher end of the multiple if your income is red. And so I created a system called the content credit system where clients subscribed to a base amount of content. And then they could do projects above that, but no matter what, they were still subscribed. And that small thing made such a difference in the multiple that I can't overstate this. I can't overstate this. I can't overstate this. I would thought over or under, but I can't overstate it. I can't say it enough. Really focus on keeping your income red. Next, secret sauce. This, I think, it's one that is an intangible, but it is one that can get the most strategic dollar. Okay. So this is creating like a moat for yourself. What do you have that no one else has? And it is the hardest question to answer. So I'm going to give you an example of how to do this and how I approach this, both how I approached it at Likable and how I see customers that I work with now approach it. So when I look for this, there's two different ways to do it. There's aspirational, like this is what I think makes us different. But then there's also, this is really what makes us different. And I'm a big fan of living in a space that is not like in our own mind and our own, we're all visionaries, we're all dreamers. It's all very wonderful and exciting. But I also, if your customer doesn't believe that's your secret sauce, then it's not. So the first thing I did when I was finding the secret sauce for Likable was I asked our customers, why do you pick us? Why did you select us as your agency? Or why have you stayed with us for this long? And I would do some interviews and then a survey as a follow-up. Then I would do the same exact thing with staff. Why do you work here? Why do you stay here? What do you think from our clients? What do you hear makes us different? What makes us better than other agencies that you've worked at before? And then I survey them and interview them. And then after that, I would look at my competitors. And the reason I would look at my competitors is to sniff out what their positioning was on their secret sauce and realize that I wanted, I wanted to make sure that mine landed in a white space. And so with Likable, what I found was that people hired us because we were really fast. You had to be in social media. If you were going to catch a meme or a trend or anything like that, you had to be really fast. They hired us because we just did social media. We were experts in the space. Now I would probably have to drill that down much further. I'd have to be a TikTok expert or, really, really niche, but we were really understood the nuances of social and how to deliver ROI on that social. And then the third reason they worked with us is because they liked us. And so I had our secret sauce be, we offer faster service from the smartest in social with likability guaranteed. And what I would do is I would measure that every 6 months. And if I didn't prove it through the surveys and interviews, I needed to make changes at my company to ensure that I was living by what made us different. Now, with the Whisper Group, I'll give you an example. My secret sauce is really the collective. I have the largest community of exited female founders, and they are there to advise aspiring exited female founders. And that's something that's very, very difficult to replicate. So sometimes it's a service offering. Sometimes it's a community that has a high engagement rate. And there I would measure engagement rate. You look for the story. And you can start with what you think makes you different and then validate it. But I think it's a really hard challenge, especially for women, because so many of us get in the space of, oh, everyone has that. Oh, that's not really true. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that by creating something that's measurable, it allows us to have the competence to meet with the confidence that we need to have there. And I think that's why I really focus on secret sauce where I can make it measurable. Your secret sauce can have a marketing hook, but as I said, it should be measurable. As you can see here, I have the no bullshit rule, but I also think that we need to, it has to be real, but also you have to be able to oh, sorry about that. You have to be able to leave your own shit a little bit. Okay, there we go. Okay, next we're on to profit. So obviously profit, if I'm weighting you on your exit, your most important piece is going to be profit. Why? Because that's where we are going to get your multiple value, right? So your profit, which is essentially for most cases, your EBITDA will be adjusted, and then it will be a multiple off of your actual profit that's there. So let's talk about this. So the first thing you want to do is know the industry averages for your industry. Second thing you want to do is how can you improve margin but still have a happy, healthy business? Because for us, building culture and building companies that are good is very, very important. You want to have happy, healthy employees, but get the highest margin you can. Where can you improve on your margin? Often it's raising prices, sometimes it's tweaking little things, but how can you set a plan to have a high margin and still have a happy, healthy business? It's a really important piece of the equation. The last piece I would ask is, are you complacent? So now I'm building a business from scratch. You better believe I'm going through every single credit card line item. When I built Likable, and you're over 8 figures, you're a larger business. A lot of times I let stuff slip through the cracks. And if you're a fast growing business, revenue hides a lot of problems. But it is really important not to be complacent with these numbers. You should be regularly reviewing your P&Ls, what is being charged to your business, what is happening over there, and what the profit margins are. Don't be afraid to go line by line. Of course, as you grow, you end up delegating your finances out to some extent, but at the end of the day, this is a really important piece of the business that you must have a handle on. And your profit is ultimately where the weight of our valuation is going to be. That's going to be our starting place, because we've got profit, we've got a multiple. Now we know there's a base that starts you in the range. And then where you fall in the range is all of the other stuff that we're talking about now. Executive team. So when someone is buying your business, and I'm actually going to do this live, adjust both for executive team and if you're a solopreneur, because you probably have some solopreneurs on here. You want to make sure people know that when you're selling your business, you're likely not a lifer at that company. And if they don't think that, they're foolish, unless they're incentivizing you with some kind of large equity play and you really want to stay. Generally, when you're selling, it's because you're ready to do something else or have a change. And so it's really important that you have an executive team that is on board and incentivized for that exit. You want to make sure that they're really strong and that the business is not built on you and you alone. So the questions you ask for executive team, are you in founder mode? Is it you doing everything all the time, everywhere? Now, this is if you are not a solopreneur. I'm going to get to solopreneurs in a second. Are you in founder mode? Are you doing it all? Are you micromanaging every piece of every deal? If you were gone for a couple weeks, would that be okay? Could you even go away for a month? Is your leadership team built on trust, and are they properly incentivized? So I'm going to talk about this here on the next slide. You don't necessarily need to offer equity to a leadership team, but just really avoid empty promises. There's two schools of thought with this. You can either have equity or phantom equity for an eventual sale if you want to lock them in until a sale, or you can just do good work, pay them well, and then when you sell, surprise them. Just offer them something and not, don't actually lay anything out or promise or say, I'm going to take care of you when this happens. Don't worry. It's really, really important to avoid empty promises, because that really, really, really screws with trust. I did a phantom equity plan for my team, which was great. And I really prioritized both transparency and clarity in my strategic planning. They knew when I was getting ready to think about exit, but I didn't share too much in terms of, I'm talking to this acquirer now, I'm talking to this acquirer now, because employees really need to feel certain, and it can be uncomfortable if they think like, oh my God, I don't know where I'm going to go, et cetera. But for me, what I did was I focused on a timing of exit. I said, I'm probably going to exit in 2020, 2021, around that time frame, and I will keep you in the loop the whole way once we have a good acquirer. And here's what I'm prioritizing. I'm prioritizing that they keep the team, which I did. And that type of transparency went a long way. The other thing that I want to talk about here, I did not add the slide for it, but I will tell you about it, is if you are a solopreneur. If you are a solopreneur, I switched this E to ecosystems. A solopreneur who is acquired needs to have systems and standard operating procedures that can be passed on. Now, if you're an acqui-hire, which means that you are going to be brought into a team and have a job there. That's what an acqui-hire basically is. They're hiring you for you. That is okay. You won't capture a premium for that. But if you have systems, processes, and something that someone can take over and run with it, that you can capture a premium for. So that's a word on just looking at our ecosystem. And I'm glad at least I added the word here. Great. Okay, now we're heading on to our final word. So we know our why. We're going to figure out how to get there. We're going to keep our income red. We are going to have a differentiator we can measure through our secret sauce. We are going to optimize for profit. We are going to have a strong leadership team or strong systems. And now we get to the last piece, which I found the hardest. That is your roar factor. The reality is 80% of our net worth is likely tied up in our business. So often. I know for me, mine was. And so when I'm standing in a room full of men negotiating the biggest deal of my lifetime for 80% of my net worth, it's really, really hard and scary. And so you want to make sure that you're ready. The first question I want to ask for you is, do you have the courage to avoid the noise and choose happiness? If you start looking at other people's exits or things in the news or things like that, and you have an exit that meets your personal needs, you can start to feel less than. In reality, I want you to know exactly what makes you happy. And I want you to be in the room and know that we're going to negotiate against that vision. And can I walk away if I don't have that vision? Are you prepared? Are you not in a space of panic? And these are the things we work at when we work with our founders. Is my business defendable when under fire? A lot of times, not all exits are happy exits. A lot, and even when they are, going through the process, sometimes you're really stressed and sad, and sometimes you're really happy. And either way, they're going line by line through everything in your financials and asking a million questions and causing you to really talk about imposter syndrome. There's no bigger element of imposter syndrome. You didn't start this business to be an accountant, and yet you're sitting in rooms going line by line. What is this? What is this? What is this? And it's very, very, very challenging. And so you have to be ready to defend that and just calm as can be. And then finally, really thinking about, what are you afraid of with this exit? As you're preparing, there's lots of ups and downs and lots of questioning yourself and all of it. And I think this is all really, really important to have somebody by your side who you trust, that you can share those fears with and think about what you can do to break through them to get across the finish line. Because you will, at that last final moment, have, a lot of back and forth with yourself. And really just make sure that you have someone there helping you push to break through, even if it's yourself, but like really have things in place to help you push through. Okay, so this is the whisper way. Understanding your why, your how, your income, your secret sauce, your profit, your executive team or ecosystem, and your roar factor. And I wanted to end, before we open up for questions, with this quote. None of us will, of course it is by a man though. I need to replace it. I'm just telling you. But none of us will ever accomplish anything excellent or commanding except when he, and then I added, or she, listens to this whisper, which is heard by him alone. An exit journey is very personal. There is no one exit that is perfect for everyone. What matters is where you go, the financials, the experience, what you do after, all of it. It's not just a big number. It's a big life. You want to be able to exit on your own terms. It's really, really important that you're able to figure out what you want. And some of the best ways to do that, and I talk about this in my TED Talk, is just really listen to the whispers of your intuition. That is really the key. When we listen and know what we want, we can build all of this to be worth what we want. We can build it. And I will tell you one thing for sure, we all sure as heck deserve it. So, okay, these are a couple things. So I'll tell you these things and then we'll open for questions, and I'm right on time, very excited. Whisper Score. Whisper Score is a QR code and we will send this out too. It's your exit readiness score. It's a quiz. It's about 30 questions, but it's quick. So you don't have to know your numbers or anything. You just answer gut. And I'll give you your Whisper Score. It has some free videos for you guys so that you can have some learning on how to improve each of the areas. The Whisper Way. If you go to thewhisperway.com, it's out May 6th. And I'm so excited. It's a book and it's great. It tells a story of 7 fictional entrepreneurs who come to a retreat with a guru awesome guide. And each one of them has a challenge equated to Whisper. Then it has an implementation guide and it has real life stories. And then this is how to connect with me. You can email me, follow me, etc. And now I'm ready for questions. I'll leave this up for a minute. So in case people want to have this.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carrie. We have so many questions to get through, so I'm going to dive right in.
Let's do it.
Okay, going back to the beginning, you were talking about market multiples, and Rachel
Yes.
and Irina asked industry-specific questions. What about tech? What about CPG?
Yep.
So I know many people are in many different industries. Where do you recommend people research or
Yep.
source and identify their market-specific multiple?
Yep. Yep. Okay. So lots of info on multiples, and I'm going to be putting some more out as well. But you look at theyGotAcquired.com is a female-founded brand that puts out reports as a media company. Lexi Grant founded it. They have a lot of reports on multiples. Then the other area you want to look at is PitchBook. Can give you a lot of good detail. That's mostly funded companies, but it will give you like some good data. And then there was very recently another market multiple report. Usually Wells Fargo has some data on multiples. So I will send out, it's definitely They Got Acquired, definitely PitchBook. But then we can get you a few more. I think it's from the Wells Fargo State of Business report.
Amazing. Thank you. And Hillary and Zena both asked questions around, how do you start seeding this process, so to speak? So, what's the best way to approach an industry partner about a potential merger?
Yep.
Or how do I even start networking to plant these seeds about an exit? So
Yep.
what do you recommend?
Okay, so I have lots of thoughts on this, and I help women do this all the time. You start thinking about who the ideal acquirer is, or depending on your situation, who might be good to merge with or partner with. And just start out by really reaching out to network and say, like, if I were looking at an acquirer, let's say I was at Likable and I wanted Zeno Group to acquire me. I would reach out to Barb. I would know that she's the head there. And I would say, hey, I just wanted to get on your radar. I'm Carrie. I'm an up and growing agency. I'd love to explore and experience, share kind of where I'm at today and learn about where you guys are today in your growth trajectory. That's code. It's code for acquisition merger. Keep it light and early stage. When you are looking at a number of acquirers, it depends on your timeline. The more clear, the closer you are to exit, the more clear you want to get, which is, hi, I'm actively exploring acquisition opportunities as if we need to sell right now. So keep it, go with the range of how far out you go. I want you networking with acquirers 3 to 5 years out, like just having chats, just knowing them. And just like they should know who you are, even if it's early out, commenting on their LinkedIn. It's just staying on the radar.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So we've talked about the numbers starting to plant seeds, but what about the dream team? So when you're preparing to exit, like who do you need in your corner for this?
Okay. Okay. Most important, you need a team you can trust. So I'm going to give you the real deal on this. Okay. So there's lots of different ways to sell. First of all, you need good legal no matter what. And you
Okay.
need somebody who understands your, like a financial advisor, accountant. That space is very important. Those are two different things, but you want to be able to know a couple of important things. And then I'll talk about representation. Legal, you need to make sure you have a great team there. There's no question. There are lots and lots of amazing lawyers that work on this of varying levels of pricing, by the way. So it's very interesting. Like vet, make sure that they have experience in your industry, make sure they've done it, and make sure that you connect with them. Those are the biggest things that I want to see. On the wealth management and accounting side, you want to be crystal clear with the deal, what you're going to get post-tax. You want to have good tax advising, et cetera, and how that money is going to serve you. Because the shock from going to free cash flow to having a lump sum, even if the lump sum is big, it's a big shift. That's really, really, really important. The last thing is who represents you. Investment bankers are fantastic, but they're for very big businesses. Their fees are $1 million. So you have to be huge to do that. There are brokers that could sell you like out of a truck. That's like an inexperienced person who calls themselves a broker. And usually there are a variety of in-betweens of, seasoned brokers, M&A advisors, people like the Whisper Group, that stuff. The things that you want to know that they've done deals like yours. You want to know that they love and value and see the magic and will fight for your business. And if
Mhm.
they don't and they treat you like meh, I can't tell you how many people Likable said, get over 10 million in revenue before you even talk to me. And I felt
Mhm.
not heard. So I ended up going with somebody who spoke to me at 7 million in revenue. And then when I grew, I used them. So the
Mhm.
other thing is, you want somebody who gets your business and is excited about your business, someone who has experience in your vertical, and then someone who gets you. And
Mhm.
that's really important because you're in the trenches with that person. You are in the trenches. The last bit I'll say is that many people can, for depending on the size of the business, facilitate a deal themselves. Sometimes when you raise funds and you're out of funds, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to sell this and make sure my investors get whole, and I
Yeah.
can't, we have no cash flow. I have
Mhm.
many, many advisors who actually did it themselves. And in
Okay.
that case, you want to just have like we do this too, but like a mentor, a support system, somebody you can go to help you get through that. It's not ideal to do it yourself, but it does work. It definitely can, especially if you're out of funds.
Okay, Carrie, and what is the fine line? You're assembling the dream team, you're starting to network, but at what point are you overexposing yourself with how many people you're talking to about this exit? Like, what is
Okay.
how do you know?
So there's a difference between early stage exit planning and then ready to exit. So early stage exit planning is all businesses end and all businesses exit in some capacity. It's either they close or, they pass it to a partner or, anything along those lines. So being open about early conversations about what life looks like down the road,
Mhm.
that's totally fine. When you do decide to actually go to market, you want to make sure that you're using real discretion. You pick the people you trust, hopefully who you vetted before it's a reality, and then you
Mhm.
say, okay, I'm going to you, I'm setting a plan, now I'm ready. And that's where you have complete discretion. And it's really, really important to not have that get out there because employees could leave, clients could leave. There's a lot of challenges that could happen with that. So I think you want to also choose somebody. That's why I also don't like people who do auctions. So different types of M&A professionals. There's auction, which is social media agency for sale out of New York, works with Dunkin' Donuts. People could very quickly, employees would know that was me.
Right.
So it's really important when you're choosing somebody to make sure that you have the level of discretion you're comfortable with. I'm a big fan of discretion as a whole. You could tell your leadership team if it works for you that you're exploring this, but don't get too in the weeds because it creates too much confusion.
Right. I mean, Carrie, could we double click on how to communicate with your team
Yes,
quickly? Just
yes.
you mentioned having a leadership team, you mentioned line of sight into what's happening, but not too much. Like, how can founders really make that decision? And are there some just best practice inflection points where it is okay to be starting to provide line of sight into what's going on? Or is it ink is signed and then you're communicating out?
It depends. I don't like ink is signed and then you're communicating out. The broad team, that is what it is.
Mhm.
The core leadership team, um, you're going to have to involve your finance person. You're going to have to involve that core team. So what I do when building a team is build a small core executive team that's built on trust. And I will tell you that in the first 5 months of Whisper, I went up, down, and all around, making sure that I had the right tiny core team. And if I were to be doing this now, if I were to be selling today, that is the team that I would talk to. One person in finance, one person in my partner in services, and what we would do, and approach it that way. And then I would say, I'm exploring this. I know that it could be challenging. I know that there will be a little bit of ups and downs. I want you to stay with me through it. You can build either you have enough trust together, or they have phantom equity, or something along those lines that they will be incentivized and excited. You want them to feel like they're a part of the process, but you cannot tell anyone who you think will get out of that cone of silence.
Right.
That core team. And then you tell the team. So what happened for me was I closed, my core team knew, I signed. That was a team of four. Then I had to tell the next level of directors. I told them it it was a shock and they were scared. And the first thing that you share, most important, is what's in it for them. Their first fear is, am I getting laid off? What happens to me? Nobody cares about you and your business as much as you do. Your core executive team might a little bit, but most people care about, how does this impact me? And so the messaging for me became like, here's what it means. Same benefits, same pay, same, all of this, plus a little bonus for yay. And there you go, something along those.
That's fantastic advice. And I guess it playing off of your no one cares about this business as much as you do as the founder. When people are thinking about exit, somebody asked, how do you balance your hope about legacy, your idea of brand protection through an exit process? And at what point do you relinquish control over that because you are in fact exiting?
Okay, so this is a hard pill to swallow. Legacy matters and it's part of the choice, but it's one part of the choice. You
Mhm.
have to recognize that the second you sell that business, even if you have the highest hopes for what it will be together, it is out of your control. You are no
Mhm.
longer in control. And so you pick the best thing that you hope for. So for me, when I sold, I had a partnership where I was acquired and then I maintained the P&L and had control over that unit for the period of time. So I had a feeling of control for a little bit, even though I didn't really have it. And then once I lost that control, it was like a period of sort of mourning of that. And
Yeah.
and it's really hard. That's why people have a hard time. But
Mhm.
if you pick the best partner that you can, if you are transparent, if you work on an exit that is happy and healthy, that is the type of stuff that you avoid.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, Carrie, but it's one that I can tell folks are curious about is what role does your personal branding as a founder and as a leader play into this entire exit process?
Personal branding is very important, but also you have to be thoughtful. Okay. Personal branding establishes who you are and your legacy long past the sale. Okay.
Mhm.
However, you do not want your entire business tied to your personal branding. So, one of the challenges you'll see is you'll hear this all the time. I did a video on this that was very popular, which is don't name the business after yourself if you can avoid it. Because an acquirer does not want to buy your name. They want to buy you and fix you up, right? Like they
Uh-huh.
want to buy a business and do what they want with it. And
Yeah.
so when the business is too tied to you, it can actually be a liability. That being said, um, it is very attractive to an acquirer to bring someone who can help be a voice for their organization to the table. So you can get a premium if you are seen as an expert in the space, and you can get a ding if you are seen as the only thing about the business that is really valuable. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. It's like in the middle. It's like yes and on both sides.
Yes. Well, and it does lead to another question because somebody, when you were sharing about the secret sauce, said, well, what if I, the founder, am the
And
secret sauce?
nope.
And I wanted to dig in on that because I had my own reactions and tips, but I want yours.
What is it about you that
Mhm.
makes you the secret sauce, and how can we replicate that? Take what's amazing about you. I am so, you guys, I'm so often in my mind the secret sauce. Like when I started Whisper, it was just me, and it was me posting myself all day, every day. And it was great. It grew, yay, but it was just me. What is that? Then it's a me business. I'm going to sell that. You can't. And so for me, I was extremely intentional about selecting advisors who
Mhm.
had the elements of me. They didn't need to be exactly like me because that's a problem. But I
Yeah.
wanted people who had the same kind of core values. I wanted people who had deep, deep empathy because this is a high empathy job. I wanted people who carried with confidence. So, in other words, you were coming in and you were confident you can get the best deal. You go out and get it. You negotiate for your clients, but also you hold their truths in confidence. You are able to hold that. So I looked for people with the magic that was me. Now, nobody's ever going to be me, founder, and nobody's ever going to be you. it's really about what are the skill sets that we can replicate and how do we measure those? And
Yeah.
that's really what I look at.
Yeah. It's taking that one layer deeper, doing that self-reflection. Um,
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned clients, your customers, and this is down the road. You're on process to exit, but what is a pro tip if you had one on communication strategy because they are the biggest stakeholder
To clients,
to
the
clients.
communication.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Clients,
So
customers.
you
Yeah.
have to have strong customer relationships to be able to do this. When I was terrified when I called my clients, but what I found was that they were rooting for me. And I think
Mm,
it's the same with everybody. Now, if you're a CPG and you're a Poppy, I'm going to go back. You're a Poppy, you're acquired by Pepsi. What's the first question you're going to get? How is Pepsi going to screw up Poppy?
right.
How
We
is
love
Pepsi going to
coffee.
We love Poppy. We love Poppy. Why are they going to screw up Poppy? And so you have to be able to carry that message across that it's, a commitment to not changing the ingredients. And you can only do what you were promised in that moment. Later, if they make that change, it's now out of your control. Your job is to transition it.
Mm, I like that. That clear delineation of what
Yep.
your job is.
I made it clear that this is, yes, exactly.
Oh. Well, Carrie, we're running up on time. So if you could impart a last piece of advice, a well wish to everyone thinking with eyes on their exit in this group, what would it be?
Set an exit plan, you guys. Just set a plan. Like you don't have to follow it exactly. Just think about it. I just want you my only thing is really to envision like when you would want to exit, for how much and why. Start with why. And if you want to reach out to us at the Whisper Group, we do that. I think we have an offer for Tory. I think we have a $500 off, like big offer. Just mention Tory Burch when they send out all the stuff. We have a lot of good things. We do exit plan well before you're ready. So if there's anything there you need, we're here for you. And even just like a call to check in, we're there.
Oh, thank you, Carrie. Yes, everyone who's tuned in, you will receive information in your email about how to connect with, how to work with Carrie. But Carrie, truly, we are so grateful for your expertise today, your insights. I cannot say enough. So thank you for being here.